Christy and I are parents of young kids, and which means like full-on time to yourself is a little bit limited in this season, more so than other seasons, especially like extended moments of downtime or reading or things like that. But one of the things we love to do when we get some of those snippets of time is watch a really good show together. Like when you just find the right show that checks all the boxes, right? That just does something, and we just love to watch through a good show. I don't know if anybody Alone fans out here, like any Alone, yeah, like is their shelter going to burn down or not, right? Like, love this series Alone. This is a little bit older, but the Blacklist was one of our top ones, and it was one of those ones that's like, well, we better watch another episode, right? Like, we probably just need to watch at least 4 today. And we love a good story. It's hard to beat a good story. It's hard to beat a good storyline, good set of characters, a good narrative. And part of what makes a great story great is not the title. It's not the budget production or which actor is in it, which actor is not in it. Part of what makes a great story at the very base level is this thing called tension. Tension, right? If somebody tells you a story and there's no tension, there's no drama, there's no suspense, what they did is they didn't tell you a story, they told you a bunch of facts, right? I went to the store, then I drove home is not a story, right? That is a fact. But every good story has a good tension. There's something that draws us in. It's hard to have a compelling story, a compelling movie, a compelling book without good tension. And there's different kinds of tension, right? There's relationships, like will the relationship be mended? Will it be resolved? There's an obstacle to be overcome. There's a mystery to be solved and so on. But part of what makes great stories great is this thing called tension. Here's what struck me this week about tension is we love it when we're not the ones in it. Right? Like I love tension when I'm not responsible for it. I love tension when it's on my big screen and I can eat my bowl of cereal or ice cream or whatever I'm snacking on and then turn it off and move on with my day. But we love tension because it's engaging, right? It's dramatic. It pulls us in. And I think that's true, but I think tension draws us is because tension is part of life. Not just because we love it in someone else's story, but because it resonates with what we experience in our story. The highs and lows of life, the ups and downs of life, the suspense of life, the unknown aspect of what it means to be human. And as we think about those moments, those seasons, those times in our lives that are characterized by tension, I just want to refer to them today as these middle moments. Middle moments. In between what's now and what's next. When the question is unanswered, when the mystery is still unresolved, when the jury is still out, when the story's not quite over yet, when we aren't sure of what comes next, when we're left waiting and wondering in these moments in the middle, these middle moments. And we land in middle moments by a variety of ways. One of those ways is our choices. Choices. We can find ourselves in these moments in the middle because of our choices. And some of the choices are good choices. I don't know, men, if you ever asked somebody to marry you, that's a choice you made, but there's a split second before she says yes that you are in the middle, right? You are in the middle. Our engagement was a surprise. And so I legitimately was like, I mean, she could say no. Like we didn't plan this thing all the way through. And I got there because of my choice. Our choices can help us land in there. And sometimes they're negative choices. Sometimes they're not like a choice to be brave or to risk or to choose the right thing. Sometimes we choose the wrong thing, and it gets us in this scenario of a middle moment, and we're not quite sure what's on the other side of that choice. Our choices. And sometimes we land in middle moments because of the very real circumstances of life. The very real circumstances of life that we didn't ask for, that we didn't plan on, that we didn't choose. Sometimes we find ourselves in middle moments because of what we choose, and sometimes we find ourselves in middle moments because of what life does and how life is. The reality of a broken world, the reality of broken bodies, the reality of broken people among us. We find ourselves in these middle moments. And I want to introduce you today to a middle moment in the life of a guy named Peter. Peter was one of Jesus' disciples. He's one of his students. Peter walked and talked and lived and breathed among Jesus for about 3 years. And Peter is this guy that has these highs and lows. He experiences tension. And I want to look at a moment in his life where Peter is in the middle today. Before we do, I want to just give you a quick flyby, some highlights of Peter's story. He was a fisherman. He's a fisherman, which means he probably flunked out of rabbi school. He probably tried to be among the elite of society and didn't quite make it. And so he takes on the family trade, or he takes on a trade that would have been accessible in that day. He's a fisherman. And Jesus comes and calls him to follow him. Jesus, as a rabbi, as a teacher, says, "Hey, Peter, come follow me." And Peter does. He follows Jesus, and he becomes this courageous, outspoken, bold disciple of Jesus. Peter gets to be part of Jesus' miracles. He gets to be used to do the supernatural. Peter walks on water. There's this moment where Peter confesses, he declares that Jesus is the Christ, that Jesus is who he says he is. And Jesus says back to him, "Peter, I'm going to call you a rock, and I'm going to build my church on the rock. I'm going to build the church on your confession, on your example, on your leadership." Calls him this rock. And then there's this moment in Jesus' last teaching time with his disciples in the upper room. He's teaching, he's sharing a meal with his disciples. And one of the things that Jesus shares is, "Hey guys, one of you is going to deny me. Someone is going to deny me and betray me." And he's talking, yes, about Judas, but he also then looks at Peter after Peter says, "Not me, I'm not going to do it." And Peter says, "You're actually going to deny me 3 times in the moments that follow." And we know as we read the story that this is exactly what happens, that Peter, when the pressure is on, when he's asked, he betrays Jesus. He says, "Now, I don't even know the guy. I'm not one of his disciples. I'm not one of them." Peter denies Jesus. And then Jesus, the moments that follow, is handed over. He's tried, he's sentenced, he's beaten, his body is broken and ultimately given on the cross. Now imagine being Peter, sitting with the circumstances of life. Circumstances he didn't choose. He didn't choose that Jesus was going to a cross. But he's also sitting with the choice he made. He's sitting with the denial he's just walked through of Jesus. He's in the middle moment. And he's not just in a middle moment on Friday. He's not just in a middle moment on Friday night. Jesus is dead. He's buried. He's not just a middle moment on Saturday morning or Saturday night. He's in a middle moment all throughout this weekend, this Holy Week weekend, until he hears something. John 20, verse 1, "Early on the first day of the week, Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, 'They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him.' So Peter and the other disciple start for the tomb, and they run to the tomb, and they find that she was telling the truth, that Jesus' body is not there. Fast forward that evening, Jesus appears in resurrected form to them. And it's going well. Their disciples, it says the disciples are overjoyed, like, wow, Jesus did what he said he was going to do. Jesus, he's back with us. He's no longer dead. And as we think about Peter, we may be tempted to think that it's all fine and rosy after this. But there's got to be some questions lingering for Peter. Like, I get that Jesus came back from the dead and Jesus did what he said he was going to do, but what about what I did? What about the words of betrayal I spoke? I'm glad he's here and among us and we're hanging out and we're together again, but what does Jesus think about me? The question remains unresolved. It lingers in the air. And Peter, even after the resurrection, is still in this middle moment. What next for me? What do I do? How do I recover from this failure? And I want to take you to John chapter 21. We see Jesus appearing to the disciples for a third time in Peter's middle moment. It says this: Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as... just make sure you're awake. There it is. Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him because he's working hard. He had to shed some layers, for he had taken it off and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed him in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you have just caught. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat, dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but who's counting? But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. As they did, none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. They're like, this kind of looks and smells, and it feels a lot like Jesus. Verse 13, Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them. It did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they'd finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Jesus meets him in this middle moment, and part of what Jesus does is reaches out to Peter. He singles out, in a good way, Peter. And in this conversation, Jesus is reinstating him. He's restoring the relationship. He's giving Peter a handout. He's giving Peter a second chance. And I love this moment for Peter, but I also love this moment for us because it shows us what Jesus does in our middle moment. It shows us who Jesus is when we find ourselves in the middle. And it doesn't just show us who Jesus is in the middle, it shows us what we can be in the middle, how we can live in the middle, how he invites us to move forward in the middle. And maybe you find yourself there today. Maybe you find yourself a little bit like Peter was. I want to give us 3 things what to do in a middle moment. Who is Jesus in our middle moment, and what do we do when we find ourselves in that place? Let's look at the passage again. Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way, Simon Peter and these other disciples, and look what it says they were. They were together. Together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. They're on the Sea of Galilee. This is a place where Jesus moved among them. This is a place where they would have experienced life and ministry with Jesus. And this is the place that Jesus called Peter. This same place, same body of water, maybe even the same shore. And Jesus is encountering them there. And they're there, it says, together. And I don't think they're fishing, right? And I don't think they're fishing as an act of rebellion. I don't think, well, we're going back to our old trade. I think they were fishing because they were hungry. I think they were fishing because they needed a little extra cash, right? That's how they made money before. I don't think they needed all 153 fish. But I also think they're fishing because they're waiting. They're in the middle. Again, I don't think they're running away from Jesus. Jesus has already appeared to them 2 times. They know he's risen from the dead. But while they know that, they don't know what that means for them. They're like, I know what he did. Now what do we do? Let's go fish. Let's go to the Sea of Galilee. Let's go kill some time. Maybe Jesus will appear again. We don't know. But they're together and they're fishing. And I think the more important thing than what they were doing is that they were together. They weren't alone. And here's what to do in a middle moment. Actually, here's what not to do in a middle moment. Don't stand alone. Don't stand alone. Peter didn't get everything right, but he got this right. That he's still with the people Jesus called him to follow with 3 years earlier. He's still with the same group of guys that Jesus called him to learn with and grow with and bicker with and partner alongside. He's still with those guys. He wasn't alone. And let me stand on behalf of Peter and of Jesus today and say, don't stand alone. Many of us were in a middle moment. And maybe we're not physically alone, but we're spiritually alone. Many of us are in a middle moment, and maybe we're not physically alone, but we're emotionally and relationally alone. Don't stand alone. Don't heal alone. Don't get out of debt alone. Don't repair your marriage alone. Don't wait alone. Don't fight cancer alone. Don't ask the big questions of life and faith alone. Don't stand alone. Because middle moments are hard. Middle moments are harder alone. Don't stand alone. So they're together. They're together and they're fishing, and Jesus is on the shore and he calls out to them. He says, hey guys, have you caught anything? They're like, no. Tells them to try one more time on the other side, which was counterintuitive to their fisherman logic, and cast it on the other side of the boat, and jackpot, they catch the fish. And at this moment, it's when John says, it's the Lord, it's Jesus. He's here, he's back with us, and look what happens. Look how Peter responds. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped out his outer garment around him, for he'd taken it off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. Peter jumps in. I love that it just gives us a metric. He swam 100 yards, jumped in and swam 100 yards. Now, I'm not much of a swimmer at all. And so if I'm Peter, I'm like, guys, what is the quickest way we can row this catch of fish back to the shore, right? But I love this moment. We get to see Peter's urgency. We get to see Peter's desperation. That maybe Jesus was waiting for him on the shore, but I think Peter in the boat was waiting for Jesus. Maybe he'll show up again. Maybe he'll come. Maybe there's something more for me and for us. And when you're in a middle moment, don't stand alone. And then, like Peter, get desperate. Get desperate. He jumps in, he swims, he pursues Jesus. And when we're in the middle, when we're in a time of confusion, when we're in a time of unknown, we're in a time of bumping up against the same thing over and over and feels like we're in a waiting pattern, or we're in the dark, or we're in the desert, it's not time for more of the same. It's not time to say business as usual. I'm going to keep my current systems, which are getting me the results that I'm currently getting. When we're in those times, especially when there's been choices we've made, circumstances we've put ourselves in, when the next move is up to us, when our will is at play, it's not time for more of the same. Let me say it this way. When nothing changes, nothing changes. There you go. If you want change, step into it. Step into it. There are times in our lives when we've got to say, I'm going to turn up the thermostat. I'm going to turn up the desperation. I'm going to turn up my hunger and desire for something to change. I'm going to get desperate, to pray, to fast, to get radical, to make a change, to get uncomfortable. And not just for the situation or the thing or that other person to change, but God, I'm going to get desperate to hear from you. What do you have to say about this middle moment? I'm going to get desperate for clarity. I'm going to get desperate for breakthrough. I'm going to get desperate for knowing my next step, knowing how I can walk confidently and full of faith in this season. I'm going to get desperate. Are you in a middle moment? Get desperate. Be a little bit more like Peter. Get desperate. Jesus and the other disciples, they share a meal. They have this encounter because of how Jesus pursues them and how they respond to him. And then they finish eating. And if you remember, we read, Jesus singles Peter out. He zeroes in on Peter and asks him one question 3 times. The question is, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? I don't think Jesus is asking like, Peter, do you have like warm fuzzies for me? I don't think he's asking like, Peter, do you like, are you agreeing with everything I'm doing now? Like, do you feel super excited about this moment right now? No, I think he's saying, are you committed to me? Are you bonded to me? Is there a union with who I am as your leader? And Peter says, yes, yes, yes. 3 times the same question. Peter says yes. Now, did Jesus need to hear him say that 3 times, or did Peter? Do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Even when it hurts, Peter said, yes. And what Jesus is doing, he's rewriting the story. He's rewriting the denial Peter has walked in and lived with for days now. No, I don't know him. Jesus offers him something, and he's offering him more than just something to do. Jesus says, hey, be somebody who feeds my sheep. Take care of my people. Lead my people. Be about the things I'm about. Give yourself for other people. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And Jesus is inviting him not to just step into a task list. He's inviting him to step into a new identity and to a new way of seeing himself and why he is there. He's inviting him to step out of the denial he's walked in, to step out of the identity of someone who denies Jesus, or of a phony, or a fake, of a liar, of a failure. Jesus says, Peter, remember that thing about being a rock? Remember that? It's time to get back to that. Let's start doing that again. Peter, feed my sheep. Care about what I care about. He takes it a step further. Verse 18, Jesus says, very truly I tell you, like this is what you're stepping into, Peter. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. He's talking about crucifixion. Peter would ultimately stretch out his hands, give his life, offer himself up just as Jesus did. And Jesus said, you're not just going to follow me, just me and you. You're actually going to lay down your life so other people could follow me. You're going to give the rest of your days to making me known, to declaring. And I just want you to think about that. Jesus is saying, Peter, you're stepping out of denying me to a young girl in the darkness of night, and you are going to give your life for me on a cross in the brightness of day. So Peter, this moment, you are crossing over. You are stepping into something new. Another way of saying, Jesus said, you're going from denying me around a fire, the streets of Jerusalem, to proclaiming me. Acts chapter 2, thousands of people are preached to from Peter on the same streets he denied Jesus. What's Jesus doing? Yes, he's forgiving. Yes, he's restoring. But he's inviting Peter, and he invites you and I to step into your true identity. Peter, this is who I've made you to be. You're not a denier. You're not a failure. You're not a fake and a phony. You're a rock. You're bold. You're a proclaimer of me. You're a leader. You're a feeder of people. Peter, this is what I'm calling you to step into. And Jesus does the same with us. Because here's what can happen in middle moments. We don't just question the scenario. We don't just say, is this thing going to change? We start to, especially if it's a long, prolonged time in the middle, we start to question ourselves. Do I have what it takes? I'm not strong enough for this. I can't do this. I guess I'm just a failure. I guess I'm just depressed. I guess I'm just an addict. We start to see ourselves through old, false identities. And it plays itself over and over again. Part of what Jesus invites us to do in the middle is to step into a true identity. Peter felt like a fake. He felt shaky. Jesus called him a rock. Jesus reaffirms his love and commitment. Peter felt counted out, and Jesus says, no, I'm counting you back in. I will still use you. And what about you? And what about me today? What false labels and names are we listening to and responding to? Maybe you're wearing the label of I'm addicted. That's who I am. Jesus said, I will finish the good work I've started in you. Maybe you feel like you're alone. No one gets me. No one's with me. Jesus says, I walk with you in the valley. I walk with you through the valley. Maybe you feel like you're lost. Jesus says, I haven't forsaken you. I haven't left you. Maybe you feel overwhelmed. Jesus says, take heart. I've overcome. I have overcome the thing that's overwhelming you. Part of what can happen is we settle into false, old identities. Jesus says, I want you to step into the true identity, because those things are just as true in the middle moment as they were before the middle moment. And sometimes the middle is messy, sometimes it's long, but the middle is not forever. And I just want to speak to somebody today. Maybe it's feelings of despair. hopelessness, failure, disappointment. Feels like a fog you're in or a cloud that's looming over. It's not the end. It's the middle. It's not the end. It's the middle. It's the middle. And just like Jesus was there for Peter, he is there and here with us. And he's not just here with us, he's here with you. In the middle. It's not the end. It's the middle. If you're a sports fan, you probably would recognize and remember about 10 years ago, there was a Super Bowl game, Super Bowl 51, that kind of stands above many other Super Bowls for a variety of reasons. Super Bowl 51, Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons faced Tom Brady. and the Patriots in front of 100 million people for the biggest day in USA sports. For the first half, if you watch the game, you remember the Falcons dominated the game. I mean, dominated the game. The teams went into halftime with a score of 21-3. Falcons to Patriots. And then by early in the third quarter, the Falcons score again to make it 28-3. If you're a Patriots fan, this moment, you are not happy. The game at this point in the third was virtually over until it wasn't. With about 20 minutes left in the clock, later in the third quarter, a touchdown pass brought the Patriots up to 9 points, so 28-9. Maybe a little more dignity in that. Then a field goal several minutes into the fourth brought them to 28-12. Then a sack and a fumble recovery. Then a touchdown and extra point, 28 Falcons to Patriots 20. Then a 91-yard drive, almost as far as Peter swam, leading to another, that just hit me, that's funny. Just caught that. Leading to another touchdown and extra point, 28-28, sending it to overtime. In overtime, Brady and the Patriots score again to end the game 34-28. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Now, that's a funny, lighthearted example. I was thinking about that this week, and how many times in my life have I thought the game was over and really I was in a third quarter? I thought, you can pick up the cell phone, it's all right. It's fine. I thought the story was over and there was 20 minutes left on the clock. One of the things that I love about the scriptures says he sees the end from the beginning. You don't have the whole story. Newsflash. You don't have the whole story. It's not the end. It's the middle. It's not the end, it's the middle. And if it's in the middle, that means he's not done. If it's in the middle, that means the story's not over. What if there's still more time left on the clock? Game to be played, potential in the air. An author and pastor said it this way: the empty tomb and your alarm clock are empirical evidence that he is not done with you. The resurrection of Jesus, the same Jesus that appeared to Peter on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and your alarm clock are empirical evidence. They are a testimony, they're a witness, they're a reminder that God is not done with you. Someone said it this way when I was in college, and honestly, the preacher was bad. a bad message, but it was memorable. And he said this about 48 times. If you're not dead, he's not done. It's like, that's good. For a bad message, that's a good point. If you're not dead, God is not done. Are you in a middle moment? Don't stand alone. Don't stand alone. Ask somebody for prayer. Ask somebody for help. Ask somebody for counsel. Don't stand alone. Don't move forward alone. And then get desperate. Say, God, I need you. Not just for a thing to change, but God, for me to change. For my vision to change. Help me see like you see. Help me walk like you want me to walk. And to step into your true identity. God, who do you call me to be? Who do you say I am right here in the middle?